Welcome, everyone. And I'm hoping you're enjoying this beautiful day and a little bit more of Lumio Palooza Global event, where we're trying to provide some fresh PD opportunities highlighting how Lumio can work and benefit you as a teacher. And I'm assuming everybody in here is teaching math because not too many other people would dive into this subject if they weren't. But we should be giving you some great ideas for your mathematics classroom today and some of the instructional strategies that go with it. My name is Terry Politi, and I am a training specialist in Philadelphia, and near and dear to my heart, I'm a high school math teacher. So this is right up my alley. This webinar is Lumio in the secondary classroom, and it features Sarah Morin. She's a high school math teacher and district math lead teacher from Washington County, Maryland. We do encourage you to participate, so put your questions in the chat. Ask them during the presentation. If we know something's going to come up, then we'll just kind of hold off on answering the question. But if not, I'll bubble it up to Sarah so she can answer it for you. And then at the very end, we'll be sharing a resource with you. And also giving you a survey with a participant certificate at the end so that you can get credits if your district does that. So at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Sarah so that we can dive into today's webinar, Lumio in the secondary math classroom. Take it away, Sarah.
Thank you, Terry. Hi, guys. Thank you for coming. I am so excited to be sharing Lumio in the secondary classroom with you. I have been teaching now for 14 years, and the Lumio has changed the way that I do that. It is one of my favorite resources, and I'm going to share with you a couple of my favorite things to do, and maybe you can walk out with some ideas on what you can do with the upcoming school year. So if you would, please join my class. I have on the Zoom screen my class ID. Go to hellosmart.com, class ID 85728.
All right, let's see those numbers go up, guys. We want to see you join her classroom.
The goal is that you're going to experience some of what I've done with my students as students. So I want you to get in there and experience it. And then I'm going to give you a couple opportunities as we go through to maybe share some ideas that you have, or kind of just mess around in some of the simulations and whatnot as well. So, all right. Yeah, I'm going to be sharing this so you can see. I'm also going to show a couple of things as we go through. So if you just want to hang out in the Zoom, that's cool.
All right, Sarah, let's begin.
All
you know
right.
me, I'm excited for math. Let's go.
Okay, so Lumio in the secondary classroom. This is me. As Terry said, I am a math teacher in Washington County, Maryland. This is actually the start of my 15th year. I am a Lumio ambassador, Lumio certified trainer. I love Lumio. It's one of my favorite things. So I'm here. I'm doing this because it's something that I love. Agenda short and sweet. We're going to talk about what Lumio looks like in my classroom. I'm going to share with you some student work samples, and then we'll talk best practices for math classrooms in general. Okay, so how do you engage students in your classroom? We're going to do a quick shout it out. On your screen, you should be seeing that you have the ability to share. Let's see. Let me reset real quick. I don't know if I did that or not. Start. Okay, so you should have 3 contributions. I want to know, what do you do in your rooms to get kids engaged in math? Because you and I both know it is tough getting kids to even pick up a pencil sometimes in math class. So shout it out. Tell me what you do. Graphing calculator, Kahoots, whiteboards. Yep. Oh, I like this one. Be engaging myself. Yes.
That is a good one.
Lumio. Yep. Same competitions. Cool. Projects, Kahoot, Desmos, Dice. Let's see. games, real world manipulatives, games, call and response. I'm definitely checking these out for myself too. Thanks for the suggestions. All right. So I love seeing, yes, absolutely. Making it relevant, small groups, new to Lumio. Awesome. Welcome. You're going to love it here. Real world questions. Okay, so I love checking these out for a couple reasons because as a teacher, sometimes you ask a question and you're like, you already know what the answer is going to be, so you've already got this next thing planned to say. This is one of those shouted out activities where I say, how do you engage your kids in the classroom? Oh, I like games, I like small groups. I'm like, oh, you'll love Lumio, guys, because you can do all of that in Lumio. This is fantastic. Real world examples. You guys sound like amazing math teachers. This is cool.
And depending on how you use Lumio in the classroom, the shout it out's a good way to look at, take a word problem, for instance. What is a method you could use to solve this if you talk about different methods? Or think about, I might ask, what are the mathematical words in the word problem they're looking at some days, just so they can spit them out. Or I might ask, what's extraneous information do you not need to know, so that they're shouting out some of that kind of information. So you can use them in a variety of different ways.
Absolutely. I love that. And real quick, if you are, I saw that we had at least one person that's new to Lumio. This activity is called a shout it out. It takes seconds to make and to add to your lesson. And if you are looking at this and for example, let's say this is not an appropriate response, I can very quickly drag that over to, sorry, I'm not actually going to do that because competitions are great, but I could just drag it to the trash can and get rid of it and it's gone. I also have these responses anonymized right now. I think, do I have them on? Oh yeah, so no names involved here, but you can actually change it so that the names are hidden and nobody sees who responded how. So anyway, shout it out activity. Oops,
I
sorry,
was
go
going to
ahead.
say, Sarah, this is all, no, it's also the way that I use freeze screen, because I'll ask the question, freeze the screen so nobody can see anybody else's answers. It's for two
Mhm.
reasons. One, because I want them all to have individual thoughts. And two, because as Sarah was just pointing out, we teach secondary and sometimes they do inappropriate stuff. So then I can drag it to the trash can because it's not frozen on my screen, but they can't see it.
Nice, nice. All right, cool. I love it. Thank you guys. So engaging kids in math is it's a tough thing to do. So we are going to talk today about several ways to get those kids involved and engaged in your class and using some of the really easy to incorporate features from Lumio. So moving on to maybe what I do in my classroom, what it looks like for me. So in my district, we have a Google single sign-on. So our students all have our Lumio login. It is very easy for them to just quickly log in and have access to multiple classes at a time. They are one-to-one with Chromebooks. So they use these devices every day. And at the upper level maths, currently I'm teaching pre-cal and IB level math. So we have to use we have to use handheld calculators, the TIs, but up to Algebra 2, they're expected to use Desmos. Desmos is embedded in our state tests and whatnot. So that's one of the reasons why I love Lumio. You can put Desmos activities right in your lessons. So that being said, we use kind of a mix in the upper level maths. We obviously have curricular resources that are expected, but I can very easily incorporate Lumio into those or the curricular resources into my Lumio lessons. And I even use Lumio for my annual evaluation. So we have to do, they're called SLOs, and I collect data using the response feature and I put that in my every annual evaluation. So really easy to keep track of where my kids are at the beginning of the year and then middle of the year and then end of the year, just on a really quick assessment. So that's what my classroom looks like. So in my students' work, we kind of start the year with Lumio. We do very basic stuff like with the shout it out or whatever, but it doesn't take a lot of time for our kids to get engaged into it. It's very user friendly. One of the first things that I do with my trig class is ask them to brainstorm. And one of my favorite activities is just throwing out a graphic organizer, asking the kids to look it up. What do you think periodic phenomena are? And I just send this out and I put it into a group workspace. And you're looking here at a sample from one of my groups of students. They added all of this information. They were able to look up and add definitions. I asked them, they had to include at least one video link and one picture. The directions for this were posted on the board on the front of the room, and then they went for it. I didn't have them move desks. I just pushed it out and I let it be collaborative, and this is what they came up with.
I love all the different representations.
I do too.
Yeah.
One of my go-tos is if a group is not getting exactly what they're supposed to, or perhaps they haven't finished the activity as prescribed in class. I tell them at the very beginning of the year, if you ever see purple on your screen in writing or whatever, that's me. So if you see up in the right corner here, it says, could you add a video link here? That was me trying to give them a little bit of feedback during class so they can complete the web. The goal was that they had the web complete after, I don't know, X amount of minutes or whatever. But so I claim that color, and anytime there's feedback on anything, it's purple, and that's me. And they know that. So there we go. Cool. There's another one. This one obviously didn't have any of the video links or whatever, but just to kind of give you an idea, this was definitely team 5. My kids got into it, and then they were able to add some of the key things to their notes after we talked about it as a class. All right, so if you're looking at, now you're looking at your screen, guys, I want you looking at your Lumio lesson. I have put out a whole class whiteboard for you, and I know that there's a lot of people in here and not a lot of bubbles, so we're going to have to share. But if you were using this in your class, if you were doing a word web or some sort of brainstorming activity, what word would maybe you put in the center for your students? So what you can do now, if you are in the Lumio lesson, not looking at the Zoom, if you want to click over on the left, we have, there's an A, that's a text feature. You can add, oh, I should have, sorry. So you put, fill in the outer bubbles with whatever word you might put in the center bubble. I should have been more clear. Sorry about that, y'all. Functions was great though. Good job.
It is a good job. And I also liked, I don't know if you all realized the text she had in the beginning was open dyslexic. So therefore, if you haven't noticed that, it is a new font that we've added. So anybody that is dyslexic, the bottom heaviness, and I'll put it back in the center here. The bottom heaviness is open dyslexic, and it makes it easier for them to track the line and follow it along the bottom. But that's a new font.
That's why I used it, Terry. That's awesome. Did you know that, oh wait, I thought I spelled that wrong. I guess you would know because you're talking about it right now, but that research is like that. My mom's dyslexic, and I showed this to her and she said, this is crazy. I've never seen this before. But anyway, yeah, so this is, let's see what kind of math teachers we're talking about here. Integers, love that. Polygons, quadratic. I love how somebody like used the pen tool. Can we get, let's see, can we get a couple people to add, let's try adding an image just for funsies. So if you look on the left, if you're new to Lumio, on the left above the A, there is a little 4, it's like 4, a heart, a plus sign, an image. If you click that, let's see if we can add an image. I know I said what word, and now I'm asking you for a picture, but pie, that's cool. Oh, here they come. I see them. Very nice.
Oh, I like the rate of change ahead.
Oh, me too. Awesome.
And it's hard the way she said it. Remember, she did this with small groups, but we did it with whole group just because we weren't sure how many people we'd have in. So it kind of brings it all into the front. If you've never added an image before, you hit the tool on the left-hand side that has the heart, the plus, image icon in the circle. If you click on that, you have 3 choices. Your 3 choices are shapes and lines, which are near and dear to math teachers' hearts, by the way, if you get in that geometry section. The image section is the next one down, where you can upload an image, or you can do a Bing Safe Search, which is what they're doing, or you can add a hyperlink. So hyperlink was one of the other things she had them do on her project, which I think is kind of cool if they have to go out and look on the web, because we're actually telling them, go out on the web. I need you to find this. Imagine that.
Mhm.
Go find a math video.
Yes, we got to create those digital savvy citizens. So,
Yep.
all right, cool guys. So we have quite a bit going on here. You've done an excellent job. Thank you. I'm going to put in purple down here. Well done. All right, moving on. So just a cool idea to add and make it really quick and have your kids get engaged right away. So you can see that they're obviously teachers are the best students, but you can get involved, your kids can get involved, they're going to love that. All right. So let's talk Desmos, my absolute favorite. This is so easy to use and to create content for your students. I find that using Desmos in through Lumio in my classroom, it's easiest for introductory or exploration type activities. So to note and to be very careful when you are changing slides or when you put it in student paced format, if you change slides, it does not save your progress through the Desmos. So if you've got a bunch of things, functions and whatnot saved, they're not going to be there when you go back and forth. So what I have done and what I've stressed with my students is when you are finished with whatever you're working on in that Desmos, you need to take a screenshot so you can, and I'll show you in my project how I had them do that, but take a screenshot so they can upload it later. And one thing that I was thinking about, this actually activity pairs very well with instructional audio. If you have the directions on a previous slide, they're going to have to keep going back and forth and they're going to lose their progress. But if you put an audio with that slide, then they can re-listen to it every time they need it. Or you can obviously have the directions on the board in your classroom or whatever, but it also works really well when they're working at home and your board's not there. So
Or Mary
this
Beth,
is
or
really
Sarah, I also hit the add and I add just a text box on the left-hand side of their thing. And the very last step is take a screenshot. So they start
all
following the
caps.
steps. Sorry,
Always,
you had to get the
always.
audio there.
Okay, so I'm gonna have you guys play around in my find a line Desmos.
And I see she added the instructional audio in the top right. So if you want to hear what it sounds like, to put in that instructional audio.
Yeah, so if you're in the class right now, the 34 of you that are in class with me, if you want to play that on your own, go ahead. I'm going to actually play it here too. So those of you who are not able to get in and are watching the Zoom, you can hear directions. In this activity, I want you to adjust the sliders on the graph so that your line passes through points A and B. At the end, we're going to discuss what you noticed and what you wonder about this equation. And I see right here, this is what you're talking about, right? On the top left.
Yeah. Yep.
Yes.
I usually just put the very last line is take a screenshot.
Yeah, smart. Yep. And this took me all of, I don't know, maybe 4 minutes to make. And I can see the implications for this in a lot of different math classes. I used the student samples that I'm going to share with you are from Prig. So I'll share those in just a minute. But just for now, you math nerds, go ahead and find that line. I'll give you like 10 more seconds. Awesome. So if you were in my class right now, I'd say, okay, stop where you are, take a screenshot, and then we're going to upload it on a slide later in the presentation. I have one more Desmos for you guys, just to kind of show the different types. This one is a match my line. So this one I have my own line already on there. And then I want you to match that equation in point slope form. And if you were to click, I know some of my students are like, oh, I know that she's already got it on there somewhere. They click this down arrow, they can see the line. I put it in a different, I did point slope. So hopefully
You're
that kind of deters them
tricky.
from,
That's
from
good.
copying. That would be the first thing that I would look for as a student. Like, oh, I know it's got to be on here already. I'm going to figure that out.
Yes, and somebody says this webinar being recorded. It is, and you'll get a link. It'll probably be sometime next week, and you'll get a link to all of them. I like the sliders. It just makes your life so much easier.
Oh my gosh, they're so much fun.
Yeah.
All right, guys, how do you feel about that? Anybody have any questions? Cool. All right. So Desmos, again, that was super easy to add to my lesson. And if we have time at the end, I can show the ease of adding and adjusting one of those real quick. And I didn't put audio on this one, but again, something that can be added in the edit screen very quickly.
Yeah, and Odessa, your question about, you'd want them to explain and talk about parallel, how they're different, that sort of stuff. That's where that screenshot comes into handy, because if you put a graphic organizer on the next page, the kids put their screenshot on there because they can upload a picture just like we can, and then they have to do the explanation right there. And then they can't go back, so they have to truly understand it before they get off of here, which is a good thing when they come in and try to explain it.
So they are not going back and forth between Desmos and Lumio. This is actually embedded in my Lumio lesson, and I'm gonna
because you'll notice as she goes next page, it's going to go next page. So if she was on Desmos, that wouldn't work.
Right.
So therefore it is all embedded inside of the Lumio, and she'll show you where you can add it at the end. So you'll be able to see how you can add Desmos right in.
Yep, I will go through that really quick. It's a super quick process. I mean, and I'll also show how to add the audio too. I know that was a question that I noticed as well. Okay, so how did I use this in my classroom? This was from my trig class, and I gave them the sliders and everything to do with polar equations. And I said, make some art. There were some directions involved that, so they have to have certain criteria. If you want the directions and everything that I made with this, I can hook you up with that after. But this is one of the students' art projects, art portfolios. They got really excited. They were only supposed to do 3 and they did 4. And the component with this is that they not only include their screenshots, but that they had to do a summary. And that's what Terry was just talking about. They had to describe what each of the sliders did. And let me share that with you so you can see. Go to the end one real quick. So this is, I had the last slide on my Lumio presentation was for them to explain how did the sliders affect the graph. And you can see that this student was like super into it. I told them they had to write at least a paragraph, and all of that was in the directions on a previous slide in my lesson. And you can see I had some great responses, and then I had some short responses, but that was definitely one of the expectations in this project.
I like that everything lands in one file too. So she can go in and out of every kid's paper as they're doing their handout, their graphic organizer, whatever you want to call it, and leave them feedback. So when they come back tonight, tomorrow, whenever they're coming back, they get to see it. They can make edits. They can do those other things.
Yes, absolutely. All right, so that is Desmos. We love Desmos. Now, a couple other ways, I'm going to go through these quickly to just make sure we have enough time. But down there in the red circle, you can see that I've used my purple writing, and I even added the circle for effect. So this was just something that was an individual handout. So every student had to do one of these on their own. And I kind of did a quick check for understanding here. And then another example of quick check for understanding, and having all of these into one file did make it easier for me to check. I think even some of these were from when we were hybrid learning. So there are a lot of different ways that I can get information from my students and respond appropriately to them.
And you said something that's beautiful. You can add all the resources in one spot. So some of them could have been PDFs from the book. Some of them could have been a worksheet she had from someplace else. You can add PowerPoint, slides, Google Docs, all in one file then.
One-stop shop. That's my favorite thing about Lumio. Here's just a screenshot of one of the shouted outs. I know I probably should have added this earlier in the presentation actually, but if you notice at the bottom, I have these, there's a blue triangle and a red circle. I asked students to, they had to give me at least 3 responses each for what are some characteristics of a function that you see on a graph versus what you see in an equation. And then I had this up on my smartboard. And as soon as I had like 9 responses or something, I picked that side, and it was like, they win, that side wins, or it was just kind of a fun little, it makes a little sound, I think. And it was a cool little way to make it sort of a competition. They had to categorize it, and you can very easily create a shout it out that has categories. And if there are wrong answers, I could change those, get rid of those, put them up in the trash can. So just a really quick way to use shout it out in a different capacity than just like an opener. All right, cool. So best practices for the math classroom. And in here I have some amazing resources that I can share and get you guys into it. Get you something to use in your room. So best practices in general, don't reinvent the wheel. And this is kind of what Terry was just bringing up. We all have resources that we are using from either our curricular resources from our district, something that we made, something that we beg, borrow, and steal from someone. So all of that is, it's good stuff. Don't throw it away. We're not reinventing the wheel. We're not remaking everything this year. What we are doing is taking things that we have and we are pulling them into Lumio, and we are zhuzhing it up a little bit. We're just adding a little bit here and there. Early engagement is the key with that. We want to get our kids to participate right away. So my warm up every day is something in Lumio. They either have a quick shout it out, they have a little graphic organizer that they need to fill out, they have a game that I sometimes start the class with a game that sometimes doesn't really go well because then they're all riled up for the rest of the period. But you know, you do what you got to do. But get them talking, get them thinking, get them collaborating right away. Collaboration with Lumio is so easy. You can do group workspaces, you can do a whole class whiteboard, you can have them do it in stations. So sometimes I just have like one iPad at a group of desks and they have to work on something over in that area. But definitely getting them together, and you guys know that that's one way to get your kids involved right away. The games and the response are excellent for checking understanding. Games will give you a really cool print, like a little feedback on how the class did overall. And then response is where you can kind of drill down and look at each student's response individually. Response, you can also export a Excel sheet or an XSL file and look at what each student did with each question. And then the last two to get kids involved is share your lessons. Y'all share them with somebody. There is a link that you can share with other teachers. They can take your lesson. They can add
You'll do
stuff,
that live right now, Sarah? Can you go up to those 3 lines?
Oh my gosh, I totally can. Guys, look at how easy this is. I clicked.
So if you're looking at her screen, click 3 lines, share.
I can give this to other teachers. And then my favorite thing to do is take this student link and put it in my Google Classroom. And then kids can adjust or access it after hours or whenever they need to. If they're absent for the day, that's just a great way to get kids to check their work, maybe.
Yeah, I even have kids who don't like to take notes. So they'll go back home at late night and take notes after they've already seen it once live because they'd rather pay attention first. So it's a quick click, share it into your learning management system, boom, you're done. They have seen everything you did on the board that day.
Yep, absolutely. And then obviously feedback and reflection. So feedback is from you, and having the students reflect on their own work, I think is an awesome and very important component in math class. If you don't think about what you learned, then it's, it goes away. So reflection piece would come in the form of like exit tickets or something like that, which are also all already pre-made. There are a lot pre-made in Lumio that you can add to your lessons. So let's talk about what some of those look like in Lumio for math class. So I think we were talking a little bit about how to add components. I might have just imagined that, but if you're adding components to your Lumio lesson that are already made, y'all, this right here is a best friend for you. These are graphs from math and science. This is a template. I've linked it right here. You're going to get this presentation after, but when you click on this, it's going to take you to the Lumio library. And this is if you have an account already. If not, it is free to join. And I recommend that you do it and check it out. There are some amazing things in here for you. But when we get to this Lumio lesson, this Lumio library lesson, there are so many different types of graphs available. And I think Queen Terry here made this, right?
I did, with a lot of help from different math teachers who requested things.
That's amazing. So there are some really cool graph, which mine's not going to show for some reason, but I'll tell you what, guys, I used here we go. Okay. So if you're looking on the Zoom now, I'm just kind of scrolling through what some of these graphs look like.
And the cool part is, guys, they're all grouped together, so you can copy and paste them and stick them on other pages if you need them. So if I need a graph on top of a PDF, I just have them next to each other, copy, paste it on top of the PDF, and they're good to go. I am going to stick my email in the chat. I am the math person for SMART. So if you have some specific questions or ask, I can't guarantee it's next week, but I will put it on my to-do list to make sure that we get what you need so that it makes it easier for you to work.
I mean, just having this as a resource, you can pull it from the Lumio library or add it to your own library and then just pull what you need as you're creating your lessons. It is fantastic. I'll tell you, it saves so much time than trying to just pull it up or sketch it by hand. That's literally worse. I was doing trig graphs, guys. I didn't think to look at this. I'm doing trig graphs. I'm trying to do my x-axis in radians. It was just terrible. And then I found some graphs that were available for that. So it saved me so much time.
So save it to your library, and you can bring in any one page that you need or multiple pages into your file that's already there. You do not have to bring it all in. It's kind of like a helper page that you can just bring in what you need.
Yes.
All right.
Cool. Okay. So math teacher's best friend. That is a great resource. All right, my absolute favorite. Can we go back to the Lumio lesson really quickly if you're on the Zoom? Equation editor, finally, guys, this has been around for a little bit now, but I remember a time when this wasn't available and oh my gosh, what a pain. So this has been an incredible addition to Lumio. You can add equations directly into your Lumio file while you're doing the creating. And best part is you can leave it unlocked. And as you present, if you like made a mistake or if you want to add something, you can double click and change the actual equation while you're presenting. So you don't have to like go back into the lesson, edit the lesson, and then come back out. So let me demonstrate for you here. It also has chem type. So I know this is math in secondary classroom, but tell your friends, we're close with that science department. So for example, in Algebra 1 or Algebra 2 class, we're talking about area, we're doing quadratics. I've got my little picture here. Incidentally, I created this directly in Lumio. I did not import this anywhere from anywhere. So all of this type is just available, which like changes everything. Okay, so as I'm going through this, I'm teaching my students like, okay, guys, how did we set this up? We're talking area, length times width, blah, blah, blah. And then I see, oh my gosh, I made a mistake. So I would say, where's my mistake? Maybe they would call me out here. And if you notice that if I double click here on my actual my word, or not my words, but my equation. I've got my equation right here. I know I made a mistake when I moved that 60. It's supposed to be a minus. So I'm going to change that to a minus 60. And then I can update. So that's actually going to go back into my presentation, and it is fixed and it's ready to go.
Few things I love
While
about that equation editor is you can add a space in. A lot of equation editors don't let me click the space bar and add space. Sometimes I need to add a space. I also like that I can highlight anything and change the color depending on what I'm putting it on top of. So I can change it all. It doesn't stick with black. You can make it white. You can make it red. You can make the equation anything you want it to be.
Yes, good point. That's how I made this area over here. I wanted that to be in the middle, but it was too dark, so I made it white. Lots of really cool options there. I clicked out of that too fast. So you have your typical fractions and whatnot, but you also have higher level math available as well. And I'm going to show you the chem type also. Maybe if my computer will love it.
I'm not sure it's your computer. Sometimes I think it's the hundreds of people that we have all over the place today. But yes, it does do all upper level maths that we need.
All right, cool. And that was so easy to add in my lesson. I just, I'll show you when we go to edit, but you can very quickly add any type of equation necessary. So that is the equation editor, and it was super easy to incorporate. And now one of my other favorite math teacher tools, we have PhET simulations. And I know Terry and I talked about this when we were getting ready for this presentation. I had not looked into PhET because I thought it was science. I thought it was all science. It's not. There's so much cool math stuff in there.
Well, and even that, sometimes I'll search through the physics ones because you know what? Physics is math, although they put it under the science word. I use a lot of those for Algebra 1 and Algebra 2, the ones that are set for physics.
This is just I figured this would build nicely after we just talked about area, right, in the last slide. So you can see if you're messing around on your screen in the Lumio lesson, you should be able to get in there and mess around with this simulation. I've got one that's explore and then a game at the end, which I kind of played, was pretty cute. This is something that I did not make, guys. I didn't make this. I just found it. So when I give this to my students, I would obviously give them some direction to go along with. I would probably also use the audio direction or audio instruction feature on this slide as well. But I would give them some time to play with this, to come up with their conclusions. And then I would probably in my lesson have a slide after where they can summarize what they learned. And again, it took me 5 minutes to put that together. So I'm getting a lot of bang for my buck as the math teacher in this scenario, and it's saving me a lot of time.
Yeah, and a lot of the times when I use a PhET, they know the rule. It's usually the first 5 minutes is all on their own play. And I usually use the word play because they like it better. However, then they know there's a report out. What'd you learn? What does what? Even if they don't know the mathematics about it. Hey, if I click on this button, it will change these numbers. Hey, if I do this, just because they're learning all on their own and they feel they have bought in at that point in time.
Excellent. Cool. I think I'm going to cut you off, guys. I'm sorry. I know you're into it and you're playing around with that one, but I do have another one here for you that I thought was maybe a little bit, because this was secondary. So that one's cool. I've got another one that's like fractiony that you can share with your friends, you know, in the lower levels. But this one had some cute music that went with. And again, not something that I created. I just found them. So they are very easy to add.
And if you've never used PhET before, I put the link in there to go directly to their site. Remember, they embed in Lumio. However, what I have found off of their site is once you make a free account, it's all free. They allow you, there's teachers who have uploaded lessons and you can see some of the lessons that they've used, questions they've asked. They also, a lot of times will have a PDF or Word document that you can bring into Lumio and have the kids fill in that way. So there's a lot of interesting stuff there. It also has the teacher section, which shows me what each button does, just so that I don't have to play the whole time. I can just look at my cheat sheet and be able to know what each button does and how it works the simulation.
Also, as the teacher in your lesson, if you click down here on the bottom right, the word FET, and it has 3 green dots, you can access the website from here as well, and also take some screenshots as needed.
The
So
screenshot is my favorite tool there. I wish Desmos had that same feature
mhm.
because it makes it so much easier because the kid doesn't matter what device they are in. Those 3 dots have the screenshot built in, whereas depending on what device they're in with Desmos, you have to teach them how to do a screenshot on a laptop, screenshot on an iPad, screenshot on Chromebook. So it just depends what your
Yes,
kids use. All right, let's move on because we want to get to the build just so that you can show them a couple of the builds.
yes. All right, so quick exit ticket. This is something that I do at the end of every lesson. I have, this is again, not one that I created. It was one that was in the library. And I think I made this one a whole class whiteboard also. So I'm actually not gonna spend a ton of time here because we've already done a whole class whiteboard. I would just wanna point out some of the features as it loads. So what's one way that you guys are planning to use Lumio in your classroom? If you have a second, you can go ahead and fill that out. But if you notice here in the top right corner, if you're looking at the Zoom, I have it so anyone can edit right now. But if, let's say, I don't want that to happen in this exact moment in my classroom, I can lock it down and say, we're paused, nobody can edit right now. And I may do that in my lesson if, for example, I see like 15 people are adding something and it's not exactly what I was going for. I'm going to pause it. I'm going to talk to the class again, and then I'm going to say, okay, let's change it, or let's try one more time. So I see a couple, and we're gonna, what way are you using Lumio in your classroom? All the resources for less, love that. Checking understanding, FET, fantastic. And then Desmos and the lessons. Okay, awesome. Thanks, guys. Beautiful.
It's very
PDF
hard to cut you
scenes.
guys off, but I do want to show a little bit of the build.
I do too. Okay, so let's, if you will go back to the Zoom with me, I'm gonna go through, we're gonna end this.
So you can just close your student account and just come back over here and look at Zoom. So that way you'll get the recording, so you'll be able to build with her, but that way she can build a little faster, just to make sure we get a couple of the questions answered that you wanted. Some of them were, where
Okay.
did I find that graphic organizer with the bubbles? Some of them were, how do I add the instructional audio? And then it was definitely about, how do I upload different resources?
Okay. All right, guys, if you were here with me in the Zoom, this is my Lumio library. If you're new to Lumio altogether, yours is going to look the same. It'll just be empty. So if you click over here on new or import, these are your 2 main ways to get your lessons into Lumio. So I'm going to click new. And what that's going to do is create a blank Lumio file. And this screen is the start screen for whatever you're going to add to your lesson. So typically with how I start creating my lessons, I start up here in this import resource, because I'm usually not starting from scratch. I'm usually starting from like a PDF, or I have a Google Slides that I've been working on, or PowerPoint, this is actually new. You can import an editable PowerPoint. That's amazing, by the way. Excuse me, but I have mine's linked to Google Drive because of our Google single sign-on. So yours may not be like this right away. But we do have a lot of different import options here. And you can also reuse a resource in your library. Also on this page, we have YouTube, Desmos, and FET. Just so you know, the YouTube videos are all, they're safe search YouTube videos, and they come in without ads. So they're great, guys. They play right away. You don't have that autoplay afterwards. You don't have to worry about what ads are on the side. It's fantastic. And then Desmos, this is how I added. Let's actually start with this. Was this one of the ones that people had questions on, where we were talking about the audio with
Yep.
it?
You could just add a simple y equals mx plus b and show how quickly it is to put the sliders in.
Okay. All right, so this is what that screen looks like. Y equals mx plus b. And this is literally what I did for you guys yesterday. I'm going to add all the sliders. And then I'm going to show you real quick. You have all of the same settings that you have in regular Desmos, by the way. All right, finish. This is added to my library. And let's say I want to add some audio with that. Maybe.
The first slide takes a while because it's actually just saving the file. After that, it'll be much quicker.
Okay, top right corner, you see this little talking guy. This is how we are going to add our audio. You have up to 5 minutes to record. You can very quickly, easily record your instructions. I want you to find lines that are parallel to the given line or something like that. I recorded it. I can test it. I'm going to say add it. Now it's there. And my students are going to know what to do when they start the activity.
And if you've never played with Desmos before, we need to talk to the Desmos fellow that's on this call and talked about how you can get some more instruction in Desmos, because there's a lot you can do. This is just bare bones because we got about 2 more minutes before we have to go. So we want to show you a couple more things.
All right. So let's say I want to add one of those graphic organizers now, so they can summarize. Down here along the bottom, I have graphic organizers all the way to the right. And the brainstorming web that we used was the first one. So let's add that one. It's gonna come in right after my Desmos, maybe. And then if I want to turn that into a group workspace or a whole class whiteboard, I'm going to use the magic wand up here in the corner, in the top right next to my talking guy, and I am going to make this a group workspace, and it's ready to go. Also, I don't like that it's called brainstorming web. I'm going to say lines, parallel lines. There we go. Now it's ready to go.
Oops, you wanted to add an equation in there. Can you hit edit activity for me?
I would love to.
So from here, you also have a tool that most people probably don't know, but you will all become very familiar with, which is the equation editor.
We got this guy right here. We've got the little square root symbol and then the chem type thing. So I've clicked that. I'm going to click in the middle of my web. And while that's loading, I don't know if you guys noticed the little graduation caps on everything. Those are just really short, like 1-minute videos or 2-minute videos that talk to you about what the item is that you're looking at. All right, so I want to add an equation. Let's say I want to add y equals 2x plus 5. Insert. And there she is. And I'm not going to lock it, so I can change that later and have my kids fill out. I can add my directions here with my audio feature. I can add another slide with directions on it before or after. And that is my equation editor.
And can you show how you add something from the library? So if they save that one with the graphs on it, how do I grab something that I've saved in my library?
Absolutely. So if you noticed, I clicked on the bottom left, there's a blue plus sign. If I'm going to search my Lumio resources over here, I think I called it graphs. Oh, what was it called, Terry? Math.
Graphs for math and science. And by the way, when you save it to your library, guys, you can rename it. I would probably rename stuff with templates, things you know you're going to go back and use all the time, or some word that'll make sense to you so that they come up all the time. It just makes it a little bit easier to find stuff.
It sure does, because I'm struggling right now, girl.
Yeah, that's okay. Pull one in from anywhere. Pull it even in a game, or that works too.
All right, back to school graphing. That's what we're doing. All right, I like this. I'm going to save it to my lesson. Let's say this is actually what I wanted, but it's cool. This is.
And that same way she just added that, that's how you add a PDF, how you add anything, depending on where you have it stored, will depend on how you add it in.
So now it's there.
Yep.
I can edit it if I want. It has become a component within my own lesson. So it's kind of my own to mess with now.
All right, we are coming down to the wire here. I see Mary Beth put in the chat, the bit.ly. Then in that has several things. One, it has getting started. If you're new, and I believe we had 1 or 2 people that said they were new, there's a way to get started if you're new. There's the whole YouTube channel there. There's ways to become an ambassador, just like Sarah is an ambassador, just like I don't remember what your name is, but as a Desmos fellow, those are all ways that you can kind of learn and get part of a group and kind of get to know what you are. And there's also a link on that same slide for future webinars. And then we're going to stick in the link for the survey, and at the end is the certification. And then for those of you that need to go, go. For those of you that want to stay, I am sure Sarah will keep on answering questions as we go, because that's the way math teachers rock. We just want to know what our answer is and then be able to continue on. So I do want to, while everybody is here, I want to thank Sarah very much for all of your hard work putting this all together and putting your thoughts in. There's been great conversation in the chat, so I am sure they learned a lot and loved a lot. So I want to thank you very much for your time. And for those of you that want to get part of a takeaway, please take note of what Mary Beth just put in the chat, post it on social media. There's going to be some drawings for some gift cards.
Ooh.
All right.
Thank you so much, guys, for coming. I appreciate you. Go rock out that math class this year, guys. I know it's tough. You got this.
You got this. And if you have questions, put them in the chat. We'll make sure we can answer them right now for you, or I will get back with you later.
And follow me on Twitter at MS. It's underscore actually, and Miss_S Morin.
Oh, Miss Morin, you've been putting it in. Oh.
Katie, I tried to answer your question, and then I spelled Desmos wrong 3 times in a row. The Desmos graphs do not save when you change. So
that's where the screen shake. However, can you go back to your Lumio homepage?
Yes.
It's the power of voting here, guys. And there is a frequently requested part here that we probably all need to vote in mass. So if you hit the finish editing, and notice up on the very top right-hand side, she's got a question mark up there. If you go into the question mark, there's a request a feature down towards the bottom under feedback. We probably all need to request it and see if somebody already did request it first. And if they did request it, vote on it. If they did, like I might type in Desmos in there right now just to see what comes up. But if it doesn't save the graphs, then we need to request that feature.
Yes, that's I like that one to allow the import of saved Desmos.
Yep. So all she has to do is click vote and it will add it. It might make you click back on your email to make sure you proved you were you.
Yes. But definitely I would upvote that one in a heartbeat. And I remember that was
that's a big one. And Eric's is another big one. Right now the students cannot enter text. I believe that is also in here at some point in time, and I know they've been working on something on the drawing board for that, but we definitely need students to be able to add the math editor. You are correct. Be another good one for inside of here.
And they're really great about that too. When you, after you've requested a feature or voted on a feature, when a feature is in the works, they actually send an update out to everyone who voted on it that it's being resolved or that they are working on it. I remember when that one came through the first time with the equation editor, we're working on it, and I was, oh, I'm so excited.
And sometimes when they need some opinions, they'll look to who voted for it to try to get opinions to see if they can. And sometimes working on the web doesn't work as easily as it does in a program because it has to work on all the different platforms. So they do what they can, but please vote anytime you can.